Take a breath. Well, maybe Dante. Not if you were standing next to a medieval peasant first thing in the morning. The air smells like boiled cabbage, stale beer, and something sour you can't quite place. But it's not the soup, it's the mouth of the person beside you. Welcome to the Middle Ages, a world where smiles are rare, not because people were unhappy, but because no one wanted to expose what was going on behind those lips. Your mouth right now is a battleground. You haven't brushed your teeth, ever. That's not because you're lazy. It's because toothbrushes don't exist. Toothpaste hasn't been invented. And the idea of daily hygiene is about as popular as sunblock in a snowstorm. You might chew on a twig occasionally, scrub with a cloth once in a while, or rinse with wine if you're lucky. But mostly you just live with it. Your teeth are stained from the dark rye bread you eat every day. They're cracked, not from sugar, because that S too expensive for anyone outside the nobility, but from stones accidentally ground into your flour at the local mill. The enamel is worn down, exposing the yellow beneath. There is a constant dull ache in your molars, the kind you ignore until it becomes your entire personality. If you smile too wide, your gums might bleed. If you laugh too hard, you might spit out something that used to be attached. And the breath, it's legendary. A pungent combination of fermented grain, half-rotten meat, and a fungal hint that could probably be weaponized in war. But here's the thing. This is normal. Everyone around you smells the same. No one has mouthwash. No one flosses. And no one expects you to have a mouthful of pearly whites. That's not a beauty standard. That's a medical miracle. Even nobles, yes, even the Queen, suffer from halitosis and abscesses. The difference is, they might have someone to drain the pus. When you open your mouth, it's not just about communication, it's about strategy. You speak carefully. You don't lean in close. You don't kiss anyone unless you're married. And even then, it's more about duty than desire. You've never seen your reflection clearly. There's no mirror, no selfie, no dental checkup to reveal what's really happening inside your own skull. And so, you keep your mouth shut, literally. You mumble, smirk, grunt. Anything to avoid showing the rotting truth inside, and that's just the beginning. Because if you think this was bad, wait until you find out how people tried to fix it. So your tooth hurts. It is not just a dull ache anymore. It is a raging storm in your jaw. Swollen gums, a pounding headache, maybe a bit of fever. There's pressure behind your eye and a metallic taste in your mouth that might be blood, or something worse. You need help. But this isn't the 21st century. You can't just book a dentist. There is no clean office with gentle music and latex gloves. Nope. You are going to the one man in town who knows how to cut. Your local barber surgeon. He's easy to find. Just look for the pole outside his hut, red and white to represent the blood and bandages of his trade. He doesn't just cut hair. He pulls teeth. He sets bones. He might also amputate a leg or drain an abscess, usually with the same rusty tools. You step inside. It smells like sweat, old ale, and something unmistakably medical, a mix of rot, smoke, and metal. There's no chair, just a stool, no sterilization, no anesthesia, no sympathy. He looks at your swollen jaw, pokes it with his thumb, and nods like a man preparing to extract a stone from a goat. "This one's rotten," he grunts. You don't ask what he'll do. You know. He reaches for a set of iron pliers that look more like blacksmith tools than anything fit for a human mouth. They are not sanitized. They've been wiped on a rag that probably cleaned a wound earlier that morning. You sit. He doesn't count down. He doesn't distract you. He just yanks. The pain isn't sharp. It's cosmic. Your world tunnels into a single point of agony. The room spins, you taste blood. Your hands grip the wood so hard you leave dents. He drops the tooth in a bowl and gives you a swig of something alcoholic, not to clean the wound, but to shut you up. Congratulations. You survived a medieval tooth extraction, But you're not better. Your jaw is throbbing. You're bleeding. The hole may become infected. If the infection spreads, well, you'd better start praying because antibiotics haven't been invented yet. Still want to smile? Of course not. In fact, many people walk around with rotting teeth their entire lives rather than risk the barber surgeon's hut. It's better to endure the pain than face the cure. Some might try home remedies, chewing on herbs, rinsing with vinegar, placing leeches on the jaw. Spoiler, none of it works. And for the rare rich noble who can afford a physician, that just means leeches and maybe a prayer. Teeth weren't just painful, they were terrifying. A single infection could end your life. So, what do people do? They hide it. They press their lips tight. They talk softly. They cover their mouths when they laugh, if they laugh at all. Smiling isn't just unappealing, it's dangerous. Because behind every grin is the risk of revealing something festering. So maybe you survived the barber surgeon, or maybe you're just avoiding him, like most people. But even if no one touches your mouth, your daily diet will. Because in the Middle Ages, your food was not your friend. Let's start with bread, the cornerstone of the medieval diet. Sounds harmless, right? Well, think again. Unless you were rich, and even then only slightly better off, your bread was made from coarse flour, usually barley or rye, sometimes mixed with ground-up beans, acorns, or even sawdust. Yes, sawdust. That wasn't a mistake. People used whatever they could to bulk up the dough, and that dough was ground using millstones made of stone. The result? Tiny fragments of grit and sand ended up in the flour. Every bite of bread was like chewing on fine sandpaper. Slowly, painfully, relentlessly, it wore down your teeth. Now add pottage to your plate, a thick, never-ending stew of roots, grains, maybe a bit of meat if you were lucky. The same stew boiled day after day in an iron pot that was never really cleaned. It's acidic, it's gritty, it's hot enough to scald and thick enough to stick between your molars. You chew, you swallow, you grind your teeth down further. Even the rich didn't escape. Sure, they had better ingredients, more wheat, some sugar, maybe imported fruits. But guess what? Sugar is a nightmare for teeth. And in its early uses, it was mostly decorative, not diluted. It wasn't part of dessert. It was the dessert. Hardened sugar sculptures, spun sugar, syrups boiled to a candy glaze consistency. Sticky, acidic, destructive. Add in the lack of hygiene. No toothbrushes, no floss, no toothpaste, and you have a recipe for widespread decay. Your breath, probably not great. Your gums, inflamed, receding, sometimes bleeding. Your enamel, a distant memory. By the time you're 25, you're already missing teeth. And the ones that remain, cracked, blackened, and wobbly. But this was so common it wasn't even worth commenting on. Rotten teeth were normal, smiling wide. That just showed weakness or stupidity. Most people avoided large expressions altogether. A grin exposed too much. Better to scowl or keep your face neutral. It wasn't that people didn't want to smile. It's that their teeth wouldn't let them. Let's say somehow your teeth survived the bread, and maybe you're lucky enough to avoid the barber surgeon's pliers. But there's another enemy you can't escape, your own skin. Because if there's one thing people in the Middle Ages feared more than demons and taxes, it was water. Yes, the thing that today we use for hygiene, hydration, and half of TikTok trends. Back then it was seen as suspicious. Bathing, especially full-body bathing, was considered dangerous. The belief was that warm water opened your pores, allowing illness and sin to sneak in. So what did that mean in practice? It meant that for most people, bathing was done once a year. Maybe. And not in a private, peaceful bathroom, but in a communal bathhouse, often shared with strangers and gossips. These bathhouses became associated with scandal, even brothels, which led the church to shut many down. So, no public baths, no private tubs, no hot showers, just creative alternatives, ative. People wiped themselves with cloth, dusted ash on their skin to absorb oils, and relied on scented herbs tucked in clothes to mask the smell. But it didn't work. Everyone, and we mean everyone, smelled. From kings in velvet robes to peasants in burlap sacks. Even perfume wasn't a solution. It was a distraction, a layer of rosemary on top of rancid goat. Now consider this. You haven't bathed in 6 months. Your teeth are rotting. Your breath is a medieval chemical weapon. Are you smiling? No. You're avoiding eye contact, breathing through your mouth and hoping the other person has a worse odor than you. Personal space didn't exist, but smelling personal, that absolutely did. And washing your clothes? You had one outfit. Washing it meant taking it off. And who has time for modesty or spare garments when it's 3 degrees and you are sleeping on straw? Itching, lice, fleas, boils, all part of daily life. Your skin was a battlefield, and nobody smiled in a war zone. Let's imagine you finally escape your lice-infested, straw-filled hovel. You step out into the crisp medieval morning air and immediately regret it. Why? Because you've entered a world where the streets were not just dirty, they were alive. Not with charm or vibrancy, but with filth, disease, and the worst smells known to human history. Let's talk about urban infrastructure. Cobblestone? Nope. Drainage systems? Try again. Street cleaners? You're the cleaner, with your bare feet. In most medieval towns, the streets doubled as open sewers. That bucket you used to take care of business in your home? Yep, you dumped it out the window, preferably with a warning shout, "Garde à l'eau!" Old French for watch out for the water. Only it wasn't water, and no one ever watched out. The result? A flowing mosaic of human waste, animal droppings, spoiled food, blood from butchers, and, well, let's call the rest mystery soup. In some cities, pigs were allowed to roam freely because they helped clean up. Yes, medieval cities outsourced sanitation to pigs. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. And don't forget the smell. The smell. It wasn't just unpleasant. It was oppressive, soaked into the walls, the stones, your hair. You could smell a medieval street before you saw it. Rain didn't help. It just turned filth into sludge. Sunshine made it cook. Snow preserved it like a disgusting time capsule. Now imagine stepping over that sludge in shoes made of soft leather or, worse, barefoot. You're slipping, sliding, dodging puddles that might be water, or might not. And somehow, this was still where you shopped, chatted, worked, or took your kids to church. So why didn't people smile? Because walking outside was an act of bravery and an attack on the senses. You didn't want to open your mouth, let alone flash your rotting teeth. Smiling was a luxury of comfort, and nothing about medieval streets was comfortable. Even markets, supposedly joyful places, were filled with the sounds of shouting, coughing, animal grunts, and the occasional pickpocketing. Oh, and speaking of crime, if you got mugged, assaulted, or even trampled by a runaway ox, the local guard might help, or they might be the ones doing the trampling. Public order was more of a suggestion. You survived by looking down, staying quiet, and never drawing attention, including attention from your teeth. So, you're finally home from a long day of being yelled at, stepped on, or possibly accused of witchcraft just for sneezing near a goat. You sit by the fire, more like smoldering sticks, and hope for a warm, comforting dinner. Hope is a dangerous thing in medieval life. Let's get one thing straight. Dinner is not a feast. There's no table spread with meats, cheeses, fruits, and goblets of wine. That's Hollywood. You're not in a castle. You're in a hut where the most common guest is a rat with an attitude. Instead, you get a bowl of pottage. Again, what's pottage? It's a stew-like substance made of whatever's available, which often includes grains that are more husk than food, root vegetables that are soft from age, possibly some beans if someone's rich, and maybe a suspicious-looking lump that might have once been squirrel. It's been simmering for days, maybe weeks, New ingredients are just dumped on top of the old ones. It's not a recipe, it's a culinary experiment in survival. You eat with a spoon carved from wood or your fingers. Plates, bowls, those are rich people things. You eat from the same vessel as your parents, your children, and your neighbor's cousin who never left. On the side, a slice of bread that could qualify as a weapon. It's dense, dark, and often bulked up with things like ground bark, crushed acorns, or sawdust. That's not poetic exaggeration. That's hunger innovation. Think you'll wash it down with a glass of water? Oh, sweet naivete. The water is teeming with parasites, dead animals, or worse. You drink small beer, a low-alcohol ale that seems slightly safer because it was boiled during brewing. Yes, even children drank beer. Now let's say you're a bit lucky and live near a forest. You snare a rabbit. Yay, except one. That rabbit technically belongs to your lord. 2, if you're caught poaching it, you can be fined, whipped, or hanged. Your crime? Eating dinner. Even food that's safe might not be. Bad grain? Could be infected with ergot, a fungus that causes convulsions and hallucinations. It's like eating bread laced with LSD and tetanus. Got milk? It's sour by midday. Cheese and butter exist, but they re-crawling with bacteria unless stored underground and covered in cloth. The result? You eat because you must, not because you want to. And here's the kicker, there's no seasoning. Salt is valuable. Spices like pepper or nutmeg, worth more than gold. Most food is either bland, bitter, or vaguely disgusting. It all smells like smoke, dirt, and desperation. No wonder people didn't smile. Mealtime wasn't a joy, it was a test of strength and of stomach. So you've survived another medieval day. Back-breaking labor? Check. Suspicious stew? Check. A minor existential crisis while staring into the fire? Check. Now, surely you get to collapse into something soft, private, and vaguely restful. Absolutely not. Welcome to Bedtime in the Middle Ages, also known as just another nightmare but horizontal. Let's start with the bed. Unless you're a noble, which you were not, you sleep on a bag of straw, maybe mixed with hay or moss, stuffed inside a burlap sack, and thrown on the floor. A dirt floor that chickens also walk across and relieve themselves on. Your pillow, if you're lucky, it's a bundle of rags. If you're not, it's just your arm. The blanket? 1. Thin. Wool, damp from yesterday's rain and smelling faintly of mildew, old soup, and shared disappointment. You're sharing the space, of course. Not just with your entire family, parents, siblings, maybe a cousin or two, but also with your livestock. Yes, the goat sleeps here, so does the chicken. And the cat. Why? Because the animals provide warmth. And fleas. Ah yes, fleas. Your eternal sleep companions, along with lice, bedbugs, and a host of uninvited parasites. They nibble all night and there's no DEET, no bug spray, only scratching and occasional screaming. And privacy? Forget it. There are no doors, just curtains. Maybe. Know your side of the bed. No bedtime routine, no 5-minute scroll through social media while your scented candle burns gently in the corner. There's just darkness, snoring, and that weird noise the pig makes when it dreams. Also, it's freezing. Medieval homes have no insulation. The fire from earlier? Long gone. You're shivering under a damp blanket, surrounded by drafty wooden walls and air so cold your breath fogs in front of you. Your toes are blocks of ice. Your nose? A liability. Want to relieve yourself in the middle of the night? Prepare for an adventure. There's no bathroom, there's a bucket in the corner. Or outside, or not at all. And walking barefoot over a cold stone floor in total darkness while dodging goats and half-buried tools. That's not a midnight stroll. That's a medieval obstacle course. And God forbid someone had beans for dinner. You're all in one small room. The smells are biblical. Sleep isn't restful. It's a combat sport. You wake up sore, frozen, bitten, and 12% more annoyed than you were the night before. And guess what? It's already morning again. The rooster didn't even crow yet. But you're up because someone's coughing, someone else is praying, and the pig just peed in the corner. Your dreams? Interrupted by rats crawling over your face. Your smile? Yeah, that's gone. So the rooster didn't even get the memo, but somehow you're already awake. Not because you're well rested. Not because you set an alarm. But because your neighbor coughed phlegm into your ear, someone stepped on your foot in the dark, and a goose bit your toe. Good morning, Middle Ages. You sit up. Slowly, your neck makes a noise, your back refuses. And your legs, they left the chat. You're not even out of bed, and already you're in pain. That's the magic of sleeping on straw with a spine shaped like a question mark and dreams haunted by rodents. Let's talk hygiene, or rather the absence of it. You don't brush your teeth, there's no toothpaste, no toothbrush, no floss. Maybe, you chew on a stick or rinse with vinegar if you re-feeling fancy. Your breath smells like turnip beer, rat stew, and regret. You don't shower. Water is too cold, too far, and too full of parasites. And besides, people believe bathing opens your pores and lets the plague in. That's right. Washing was considered dangerous. You throw on your one outfit, it's the same one you wore yesterday, and the day before, and all the days before that. It's wool heavy, itchy, and crusty in weird places. No underwear, no socks, no choices. Now comes the morning chores, also known as the part where you lose hope. You need to start a fire, but the embers are dead, the wood is damp, and your fingers are too numb to function. You strike flint like a medieval caveman, whispering prayers between curses. The fire crackles, a miracle. You warm your hands just enough to begin the next trial, hauling water. The well is outside, the bucket is wooden, the yoke is splintered, the air is icy. You step out into the grey dawn barefoot because your shoes disintegrated last winter and became part of the door. The ground? Wet, jagged, alive with bugs. You drag bucket after bucket from the well. Your arms ache, your back screams, your soul weeps. And when you return inside, no one says thank you. No one notices. You are invisible. Your reward? Cleaning the latrine pots, or feeding pigs, or being yelled at by someone with more lice than you and slightly more authority. Still hoping to smile? Not today. You survived the well. Barely. And now it's time to enter the heart of the medieval house. Not the throne room, not the chapel, the kitchen, a smoky, sweaty, unholy den of chaos. The air hits you first, thick and greasy, like someone fried a sheep and forgot to open a window. The ceiling is black with soot. The one window is permanently clogged with grime and passive aggression. The hearth blazes, but not out of warmth. It's a fire that never stops, that eats wood like a beast and still demands more. You get close enough to feel your face dry and crack while your back is still frozen. You're immediately put to work, not politely. The cook is yelling, always yelling, and somehow always holding a spoon like a weapon. She screams something about the stew pot still being crusty. It has been your fault since last Tuesday. So you scrub. With what? Ashes, sand, maybe lye if someone remembered to make it. No soap. That's for sinners and nobles. You scour the same pots you washed yesterday, caked with meat glue and onion ghosts. Your knuckles bleed, the burns sting, and still you scrub. The floor is wet, always. Slippery from broth, grease, and the shattered dreams of last week's onion peeler. You dodge a falling ladle. You step over a rat. You get splashed with hot tallow. You keep moving. Because if you stop, The cook notices, and when she notices, you're on spit-turning duty. 2 hours beside an open fire, rotating a carcass until your eyes dry and your arms go numb. There's no recipe. The food is judged by smell, smoke, and screaming. You're hungry, but no one offers you anything. The stew smells edible. You are not allowed to taste it, so you chew on a stale bread crust hidden in your apron and hope no one sees. Too late. You've been spotted. Now it's latrine duty again. Or worse, onion duty. Yes, that's a real job. Chopping onions for hours, crying until your body forgets what emotion is and starts weeping from existential despair. No gloves, no break. Just layers and layers of culinary misery. Someone drops a pot. It cracks open like a skull. The cook lets out a shriek that makes a nearby goose faint. You mop up the mess, you scrape more trenches, you ladle more soup. You serve plates to people who won't look at you. You are not a person here. You are a shadow with chores. It's evening now. The nobles are preparing for supper, which, in castle terms, means chaos with cutlery. A dozen torches are lit. Trays are polished. Every piece of meat has been overcooked for safety and under-seasoned for tradition. And you? You don't sit. You don't eat. You don't speak. You exist just out of focus. You're standing against the wall in the great hall, back straight, face neutral, eyes down. You're holding a pitcher of wine, and your arm is already shaking. You've been holding it for 40 minutes. No one has asked for a refill. That's not the point. You're there to be seen, not noticed. You're expected to move only when called, to anticipate a gesture, to respond before the noble finishes blinking. Your job is to exist with perfect silence and perfect timing. Mess it up and you get yelled at. Do it perfectly and you are forgotten. The feast is loud. Laughter, meat, music. People drinking like it is the last harvest and throwing bones onto the floor as if the world is their trash can. You get bumped by a knight reaching for a leg of lamb. You apologize for being in the way. You were standing exactly where you were told. You notice a servant drop a plate. It shatters. Everyone turns. He's taken out of the hall. You don't see him again tonight. You exhale silently. A noble waves lazily toward your direction. You step forward. 1, 2, not too fast, not too slow, and pour the wine without looking him in the eye. Eye contact is dangerous. It makes them remember you're real. You spill nothing. He doesn't say thank you. That's good. You retreat back into your spot, your shadow on the wall, and try to ignore the pain in your arm, the sweat pooling at your lower back, and the piece of barley stuck in your sock since noon. The music swells. The nobles cheer. Someone's dancing. You smile with your eyes closed for half a second. Wrong move. The cook sees. You'll be scrubbing pots until sunrise. Again. You're not supposed to enjoy the feast. You're supposed to be part of the background. A living candle holder. A walking pitcher. A chair that breathes. No one asks if you're hungry. No one sees the blister on your foot. No one notices the bruise from the pot handle you caught earlier, because tonight, they're all pretending that you aren't there. And you? You're getting very good at pretending you're not either. The feast is over. The laughter has faded. The lute is silent and the nobles have stumbled off, either to their chambers or into someone else's. All that remains is you and everything they left behind. The floor is a battlefield of bones, fruit peels, goblets, half-eaten pies, grease-stained trenches and stains you can't identify and definitely won't ask about. Your job now? Make it all disappear, but not too loudly. The nobles are sleeping, and even their dreams are above you. You start with the floor. You sweep bones into a bucket that used to hold onions. Now it holds failure. There are footprints in the gravy, a dead mouse under the table, and a roasted birdwing somehow stuck to a tapestry. You don't ask how it got there. You don't ask anything. You scrape hardened cheese off a plate with your fingernail. You soak spoons in warmish water and scrub them with ashes. No soap. Soap is a fairy tale. The ladle is missing. You'll get blamed for it in the morning. The fire's gone cold, and your toes are aching. But there's still the trenches to wash and those thick, stale pieces of bread that served as plates. Some are edible, most are not. Some go to the dogs, some it might end up in your pocket. Just a crust, just a little, no one saw, you hope. Next, the goblets. Each one must shine, not sparkle, they don't sparkle anymore, but be presentable, which is code for don't make the Lord angry with your fingerprints. You work in silence, so do the others. No one speaks, not because you were not allowed, though you were not, but because there's nothing left to say. You all know how this ends. When everything is finally clean, you still don't sleep. You mop the floors, your back screaming, hands wrinkled from cold water and vinegar. You collect the rats' remains and toss them into the waste pit. You scrub the table, the benches, the hearth fond again. Because if the Lord wakes to a single crumb, you'll be peeling turnips with your teeth for a week. And the irony? You don't even know what half the food was. You smelled it, carried it, scraped it off someone else's face, but taste it? No, not for you, you're just the echo, the after. The person who arrives when the music stops and the nobles forget there were ever plates at all. You don't clean because they ask. You clean because you were born to. Because your mother did, and her mother before her. Because in this castle, nobility leaves a mess, and someone has to make it disappear like magic. And magic, unfortunately, is also not for you. You've scrubbed the last spoon. You've poured the last bucket of slop. The nobles are asleep, the torches are dim, and the stone walls echo only with the soft scurry of rats and the creak of your bones. Now, finally, you return to your hearth. If you're lucky, someone left you a patch of floor. If you're luckier, it's not damp, you lie down. No mattress, no blanket. Just your shift, your aching spine, and the same burlap sack that's been cradling your ribs since last harvest. You stretch out beside the embers, still faintly glowing. You don't dare feed the fire. That is fuel reserved for tomorrow as stew. So you curl near the heat like a tired animal. The air is thick with smoke, ash, and fatigue. The kind that lives inside your bones, not the kind that sleep fixes. You hear the others settling too. A quiet shuffle, a suppressed cough, someone murmuring half a prayer. And then, stillness. You would think this is the moment of peace. It isn't, because tomorrow is already here, already waiting, already heavy on your chest like a brick made of time. And that is the curse of the medieval servant. The day never really ends, it just pauses, only to begin again. Same fire, same water, same stew, same orders, same sore hands, same rats. You do not dream, your body's too tired for that luxury, and even if you did, it wouldn't be of escape. Because your imagination, like your rations, is rationed. This is your world. 4 walls, a kitchen, a spoon, and a cycle. And so, you don't smile, why would you? Smiles are for those who wake when they're ready, who eat before they hunger, who bathe when they want and speak when they please. For you, the only thing your face learns to do well is flinch. But still, in the silence as your eyes finally close and the fire gives its last pop, there is a strange peace. Not joy, not happiness, but a quiet acceptance. Because in a world that forgets your name, ignores your face, and blames you for every broken pot, you're still here, and that somehow is a victory. So now, let the silence wrap around you like a second skin. Let the fire whisper its final lullaby, and if you find rest, or even for a moment, know this: your story mattered. You were seen. You were remembered. Sleep tight, servant of stone and shadow. You did enough today. As the fire turns to ash and your breath slows with the night, know this isn't just a story of hardship and hunger. It's a story of endurance, of anonymous strength, of quiet lives that history rarely records. But that mattered all the same. They didn't smile, not because they didn't feel joy, but because they had to save their strength just to survive. So now, listener, whether you're tucked in bed, resting your eyes on a long commute, or simply seeking peace in the stillness of night, breathe out. The past has done enough for today. And if this tale helped you drift away, if it softened your thoughts, or gently wrapped around your rest, then we invite you to return here, to the quiet corridors of the Sleepy History Club. Subscribe if this kind of soft, honest storytelling helps you unwind. Leave a comment. Let us know where in the world you're listening from and what time sleep finds you. And if you know someone who could use a little rest, share this story, because peace is worth passing on. History is full of forgotten faces, but tonight you remembered one, and maybe, just maybe, someone long ago smiled in their sleep because of that. Good night, traveler. The story will be here when you return.